Today we are talking about the most painful breakups in hair metal history. The breakups that were important not only in the history of hair metal, but the breakups that were important to us. Next on the Hair Metal Guru.
The Hair Metal Guru, from Warren to Crew. The Hair Metal Guru, never forget Charlie too.
Welcome to the Hair Metal Guru. My name is Anthony. They call me the Guru. And yes, my buddy Patrick is here because we are going to talk about the breakups that made us cry like little bitches. And with that, Patrick, welcome to the show.
You know, breaking up's hard to do.
That's right. Remember, the first cut is always the deepest.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
So we were kind of talking, and I'm like, we could open this up to like, hey, this is a breakup that was important in the history of hair metal, or just something that really impacted you. So I was, and you probably know some of the ones that are going to be coming, but like some of these bands, you grow so attached, you love them so much, and when you find out, you know what, we're done. That's it as a band. Especially when we were younger, man, that shit hits you hard.
There it certainly does. And we come from a different time, Guru, where we looked in the liner notes of the albums when we sat and we listened to them. It wasn't a passing thing for us. We lived, breathed, and ate these bands, and they felt like our families sometimes, or they were attached to the most emotional moments of our life. So when they quit, it was like somebody walking out of your life. So
Totally. So we decided to pick five. I might actually have the 5A. So let's get into it. What is your number 5 breakup that made you cry like a little bitch?
Faster Pussycat in 1994, late 93, when they were on tour for the Whipped album. And they'd also put out an EP called Belted, Buckled, and Booted that had like the You're So Vain cover, and it had a lot of other stuff in there. Well, they were out with Kiss on the Revenge tour, and they literally got dropped while they were playing arenas, opening, playing to 15 to 20,000 people a night. And they would open the arena at like 7:30 at night, and then they'd play a club show the same night in the same town. So they're doing 2 shows a night, and they get dropped, and they lost all their tour support. They'd been through the ringer with drummers. They had the drummer during the second record that tried to send himself heroin in the mail.
Oh, that's right.
Mark Michaels, he got fired, and then they get Brett Bradshaw, and they never clicked with him either. He had problems, and they tried for a little while to find another label, and they couldn't. And that was it. And I was bummed because Whipped is my favorite Faster Pussycat record. They were on such a trajectory in my book to write great stuff. And
there's because it was Kiss with Faster Pussycat and Trickster.
right.
And it's ironic that you bring this up because just a couple days ago on YouTube, I stumble upon like some fan is recording the tour buses
Yes,
of
I've seen that
Trickster
video.
and Faster Pussycat, and they're
Yeah.
just watching the guys come out, and some of the guys come over and talk to them, and it's like 15 minutes, and oh, there's the guys from Faster Pussycat and shit, and like I look at that and go, look how exciting it looks. They have this tour bus, they're opening for
Oh yeah.
Kiss. But I bet the conversations on that tour bus are like, I don't know if they've already been dropped at this point, but they're probably both going, fuck. Whipped and Here from Trickster are both bombing. I mean, at least compared to their previous albums. And it's hard not to like. I feel sympathy. Like I feel bad, and I still feel bad for to watch that and just go. And I'll be honest about Whipped. I loved Nonstop to Nowhere.
Yeah.
When that song came out, I fucking played the shit out of it. After that, like I like Jack the Bastard's good, but to me, they were getting too far away from their sleazy, glammy
Oh yeah.
roots.
It,
So
it's
anyway,
it's an odd record, and you know you have for every Jack the Bastard that you have, or Mr. Love Dog, which are very different kind of songs. Then you had Big Dictionary, which could have fit in on, Wake Me When It's Over. But you could tell what were leftovers from the previous record and what weren't.
yeah.
So I love the record. I thought it was great, but man, it really bummed me out when Faster Pussycat broke up.
Here, I'll just ask you this while we're on the topic. What is your opinion, if you want to say it, on
Mhm.
the new Faster Pussycat single
Love
Motorbike?
it.
Yep, yep,
Love it. I put a post on X. I'm on X for everybody, so
yep.
follow me. Cool as Ice 232. And but I love that song, Motorbike. It's fucking killer. I,
I
I I bought that the same day that I went and paid Firehouse for their new song. Go buy that one too.
Yep. I really like Motorbike. Um, I need to listen to it a few more times. I think I've only listened to it twice. You can still, I mean, Tammy has that industrial thing. You can hear it, but you can also hear the hard rock Faster Pussycat that you know and love. It reminds me of something you might have heard Shotgun Messiah do, like when they started doing that on Violent New Breed, and I learned to love Violent New Breed.
Sure.
So, yeah, good
Yeah.
song. And yes, go check out the new Firehouse single, Mighty Fine Lady, is also really
Fucking
fucking good.
rips. It's great.
Yeah. Okay, I'm just gonna throw out a 5A. Um, when Brittany Fox put out "Bite Down Hard" in 1991, you might think if I was talking about Brittany Fox, you might think I'd be bummed about the Dean Davidson split, and I am because I love those Dean Davidson records. But man, "Bite Down Hard" is my favorite Brittany Fox record, and they got this new singer, and when I found out that shit, it didn't pan out, and we weren't going to hear more from him, I was just super bummed about that. But anyway, there's my 5A. And my number 5 is it's White Lion.
Mm.
Here's kind of why is yes, they broke up in 1991 before you knew that grunge was going to ruin everything, but Main Attraction obviously did not do that well. But Main Attraction my, I don't know if it's my favorite. It's really close with the Pride record. I love Pride. I love Main Attraction. Main Attraction should have blown up, but they put that album out. They went on tour, and they were just like at the end of the last show, Mike Tramp said to Vito, "That's it," and Vito was like, "Sounds good." And like I wanted to hear what White Lion would have done in 92 or 93. Would they have come out with something kick-ass like Winger did or like Warrant did or Motley Crue did in those couple years? And we never got to find out. Mike Tramp did go on to do that Freakin' Nature project. I've listened to it a little bit. I don't know if
There's some good songs in that shit.
there's some decent stuff, but he wasn't playing with Vito. I would have liked to have heard what Vito was going to do. So, and I've talked many times about the song "Farewell to You," which
Mhm.
felt like not only a goodbye to a concert crowd, but felt goodbye to White Lion and felt like goodbye to hair metal. And what a way to end a record and a career. But damn it, I wish we could have heard more from them.
I agree 100% with everything you said. And here you get some different stories on that breakup of White Lion because you get the Mike Tramp version 99.9% of the time because he's kind of the only person from White Lion that does a lot of interviews.
Yep.
But about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, and I forget who got him, but it might have been Jason Green, I think, maybe did an interview with Greg D'Angelo, the
Okay.
drummer. And he had to be very careful about what he said because there clearly had been some lawsuits that had been settled and there were agreements not to talk about things. And but I think there was a lot of writing credit issues on the third record there, or not the third record, the Main
Fourth.
Attraction record
Yep.
that
Main
caused that
Attraction.
breakup. But man, if you had asked any of us in 91, 92, will White Lion ever get back together? You know, I would have said probably someday,
Yeah.
and we've never gotten that.
Yep.
And it's so sad. I know Vito had a lot of things in his personal life with his father and whatnot. He did that famous interview with Eddie Trunk about 5 or 6 years ago. But man, that's a band I'd love to hear what they could do today.
Yeah. And Vito was so universally recognized as one of the best guitar players. The fact that he just dropped off the face of the earth is actually stunning. I mean, shit, it's like the shit documentaries are made of. Like,
Yeah.
whatever happened to Vito Bratta?
And
You
can he
know,
still play? Yeah.
yeah, somebody fucking go make that. And hey, Vito or Mike Tramp, if you ever want to come on the channel and tell your story, you're welcome to. All right, let's move on to your number four. What do you got?
The Saigon Kick saga is one that has gone on for years. And, you know, obviously in 94 or late 93, early 94, when Matt Kramer left the first time, and then we got the Jason Bieler era for several years. Well, the one that bummed me out the most was the breakup of theirs that bummed me out the most, because there's been several of them, was the re in after the Devil in the Details tour. Everything kind of went silent with Saigon Kick for a little while, and I love Devil in the Details, but it got announced in a Metal Edge out of nowhere. There was a one-page article, all color. I can see it in my head still, in which they reunited with Matt Kramer in '97 for a radio show or a radio like festival type thing in Florida, and played to like 25,000 people at this radio station festival. And it says in the article about how it was so exciting, they did really good, but it imploded the same day that night and it was over and they've broken up again. And I was like, holy shit, like that band is Oil and Water. And then they get back together, you know, about 7 or 8 years ago,
Yep.
played for a few years, and now it's blown up again
Yeah.
where Matt Kramer's out. And now it's just Jason Bieler and Phil Varone, and I think Chris McClernand is back there, and then they have some rando guy playing in there. But you know, that bums me out because I'm that you've said it before on the show. I know I've said it before. That is the most unique band.
Totally.
And, you know, I don't know that we can call them hair metal, but we do because that's what the world calls them.
Yeah.
And, you know, if you've never heard them, damn it, go out and listen to them.
I did a solo 10 things I think on Saigon,
Yes.
and I can't, it's been a while now, but that that band and that debut album was so unexpected compared to what was going on in the scene. And then, and speaking of Saigon, like to lose your singer, Matt Kramer, and he leaves in the middle of their biggest hit, Love Is
Yeah.
on the Way. And then they come back with Water with Jason on vocals, and I fucking love the Water album. Um, so yeah, it just and I think, man, that band deserved so much better.
Sure.
They were their songs were so great, and you just don't. I mean, there's guys like us who talk about them, but it's not. They're basically known as a one-hit wonder.
Yeah. And they
So
shouldn't be.
unfortunate.
Yeah. And I do want to say this about Saigon Kick. They, after that breakup in '97, you still got some really quality material from Jason when he joined up with Pat Badger from Extreme, and they had a band called Super Transatlantic
Yep.
that actually got signed to a major label,
Yep.
put out a song on the American Pie soundtrack that did very well at
Yep.
radio, but the record label just completely fumbled it and kept the album from coming out for almost a year after that.
Was that
But
called Shuttlecock? I
yes,
have the
and
CD.
oh, I have it too. It was extremely hard to find it once it came out, but
Yep.
it's actually a really solid record.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I would, I'd love to have, and okay, I'll just say I've been talking with Chris McClernand. Uh,
yeah,
so we're working talking about
behind the
that.
scenes.
But I would love to have Jason or Matt Kramer on and
Phil Varone. Yeah.
or fool fuck. Absolutely Phil Varone because I have his documentary Waking Up Dead. Have you seen that?
Yeah, it's awesome.
I mean, that guy was a major, went through a lot of
He
addiction.
did a second
He did
documentary
he did
too.
porn for a bunch of years. I mean, that guy's got a wicked story to tell. Fuck, that's somebody who we got to reach out to.
Yeah, he did a second documentary too called 10 Years a Drummer. That's even more fucked than Waking Up
Oh,
Dead.
I haven't seen that. Fuck.
Yeah, it's really good.
Shit. Okay. All right. My number four. Um, okay. So this would be one of those ones that was not, it didn't become painful for me because I didn't get into this band till about 5 years after they broke up. In December of 1984, when Motley Crue and Hanoi Rocks somehow ended up at a party together, and Vince Neil and Razzle go for a car ride and get in a big car crash, and Razzle ends up dying, and that becomes the end of Hanoi Rocks. Well, I didn't discover Hanoi Rocks until 1989 when shit in interviews I started hearing Axl Rose and Sebastian Bach talking about this band. And then Guns N' Roses Uzi Suicide label, and you can see right behind me the big Hanoi Rocks. Fuck, where am I? There it is. Poster. Uh, they reissued all the Hanoi stuff, and well, because I loved Guns N' Roses at the time, and I loved Skid Row. I start listening to Hanoi Rocks, and then start finding out about their history. Kerrang, the UK magazine, used to hype them as the next big thing. And Michael Monroe, shit. And we did the episode, I don't think you were on it, but the hottest dudes in hair metal. That guy had the hair metal look down pat. I mean, he was somebody who could have been on the cover of every magazine. And but that car crash ends the band, and there have been other like reunion attempts in the 2000s, but the Hanoi Rocks put out their first album in 81 and their last album in 84. They had this mystique about them because just not much was known about them. And on their major label American debut, their drummer gets killed in a car crash with Vince Neil. Just an insane story. So I'm just such a Hanoi fan now. So that breakup just bums me out.
I I agree. It couldn't have happened to a band at a worse time too. They had songs on MTV at that point. They had the cover there of
Up
Creedence.
around the bend.
Yeah, that was getting big. They
Yep.
had crazy talent in that band.
Yes.
They clearly had a dangerous motif to them, which is something that when bands have a dangerous motif, they do really well. And it just
Yes.
happened at the wrong time.
Like Andy McCoy, the guitar player and main songwriter, he was kind of it's really well known that he had a huge drug problem. But then you had the sexy hot lead singer. I mean, they were like the fucking Joe Perry, Steven Tyler, Mick Jagger, Keith Richards. It was like it was a perfect combination to dominate America. Now, I will say this, that Michael Monroe's voice, I love it, but
Yeah.
it's kind of an acquired taste. He didn't have like this immediately catchy singing voice, so I think that was going to hurt him a little bit. But anyway, we were screwed out of the opportunity to find out if they could have made it in America like they were already making it overseas.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to your number three.
The breakup of Tesla in 1997. Or I guess it was kind of like the end of 96, 97. They put out the greatest hits record. They go out on tour on that, and I think it was 4 gigs into that was when Tommy was let go from the band. I saw them on that tour in 96. Uh, Actually, it was December 30th of 1995. I remember it because there was an ice storm and we almost didn't get to go. And I had to kind of trick my parents into letting me go. But we went and had no idea that Tommy wasn't in the band anymore. And the lights went out, lights came on, and Frank Hannon came out doing the beginning of oh shit, the huge guitar solo at the beginning, Coming at You Live.
Oh, okay.
And he did the whole thing himself and being like, "Where's Tommy?" And then you found out that Tommy had been booted for drugs, and then they brought him back, but then he got kicked out just as fast, and then they imploded. And I felt so bad because that was a band that got so much better with every album up through Bust a Nut. They got so good, and they're never bad live. And then they just, with Bust a Nut, they put it out, had very little support. They got radio with Mama's Fool,
Mhm.
and it still went gold.
Yeah.
Still went gold
Yes.
on the power of just how good they were.
Yes.
So that was a real bummer to me. They weren't broken up for too long because I think it was 2004 or 3 that we got Into the Now when they came back.
Yep.
But they also had a couple side projects that came out during that time. You had Sofa King, which was Jeff and Tommy, and you had a band called Soul Motor that had Brian Wheat, and all those projects came out.
Bar
Sofa King was
seven.
actually really good.
Bar seven.
Yeah, Bar Seven. That's what they changed the name to because the labels wouldn't hire them at Sofa King.
Yeah. I have the Bar seven CD.
Oh, it's good. It's real
Yeah.
good.
I saw them on, it was 96. I remember my girlfriend was pregnant with my
Yeah.
first kid, and obviously I'm scared shitless about, I'm like 23 years old, but uh they were phenomenal. And you're right, like here it was shit 90, 95, 96, and they were still playing to a few thousand people in Fargo, North Dakota. They played the Civic Auditorium. And it was just like you almost felt like Tesla is kind of immune.
I
It's a
felt that
grunge
way.
thing, you
Yeah.
know? Uh, even though they weren't getting the big record label support, but the fans never abandoned Tesla.
No. And that was a band that, like you said, they were kind of immune because if you think back to it, even after their breakup, rock radio, as it transitioned into the, Seven Married Threes and that kind of alternative, like rock,
Yep,
Bush, stuff like that,
yep,
Tesla still got played with those bands,
yep.
which
Yeah.
was, like you said, immune. Yeah.
And you mentioned the Into the Now when that album debuted on the in the top 40
Yeah, it did. And it
on
stayed there
Billboard.
for a few weeks. Yeah.
Unreal that that would happen in the 2000s.
Yeah. It's very
All right.
cool.
My number three, fucking Charlie, annoying the shit out of me. Pardon my language, but
Climbing the charts. Yeah.
Charlie, it's cold and rainy here in Fargo, North Dakota. And Charlie's been going out and in and out and in. I think she's got a boyfriend out there. Probably. She's like, we're gonna make content for my OnlyFans. And remember, it's only $9.99 a month. And for the price of two boobies, you get eight boobies. Okay. My number three, um, it's like obviously I gotta go after my favorite bands. And so I'm gonna talk about Cinderella, but I'm not gonna talk about um I'm not gonna talk about like the Glory Days breakup. I'm going to talk about when they broke up for good in 2017. I think it's around 2017. And when uh, there was an nobody really knew what happened. They seemed to be, they were touring, they were doing stuff. They obviously they weren't doing albums, but they were doing shows. I saw them multiple times over the 2000s. They were great. But then I just remember, and maybe part of this hits me a little bit more because Jeff LaBar has passed away. But I remember Jeff LaBar in an interview talking about what happened with Cinderella, and he talks about um, they were on, I think it was one of those rock cruises, and he was so open and upfront and honest about this that he got drunk, got stupid, and I don't know exactly what he did, but he basically said that he caused the end of Cinderella. And so I just, and then Jeff LaBar dies. I can't remember exactly when he died, but died short, a couple years after that. And so it's just a sad story. I know Tom Kiefer, is doing his own stuff, and he was always Cinderella anyway, but it just is different. Like it's different. Tom Kiefer versus Cinderella. You have that attachment to Cinderella.
Right.
And even if they didn't have Jeff, they could still have Fred Coury and they could still have Eric Brittingham and they could get a new guitar player in honor. But, instead, no, Cinderella's done. So rest in peace, Jeff LeBar. I just remember feeling so bad because he
Yeah.
seemed to, in this interview, he's talking about how Tom Kiefer was like his mentor. Like he goes, I didn't know anything about music until I started playing with Tom Kiefer. And he felt so bad about what he did. And that really resonated with me. And I think part of the reason is I was the alcoholic. And, the amount of times where I got out of control drunk and did shit that you're like, fuck, I did it that time. So I just really related to that happening to him. And so it was horrible. Cinderella is one of my favorite bands, and I'm bummed that they are no more.
Yeah, there was also I feel like it was probably about a year and a half to 2 years ago that Fred Curry was on Eddie Trunk. And Eddie Trunk, danced around the topic of Cinderella a little bit and then finally said, you know, has there been any communication between you and Tom Kiefer and whatnot? And it sounds like, that incident that took place with LeBar and Cinderella on the boat really drove a wedge between Tom Kiefer and everybody.
Right.
And I know that he's still top friendly with Fred Curry and whatnot, and certainly not trying to imply that there's bad blood till
Right.
forever. I'm sure there's not, and but it sounds like whatever it was made it to where there won't ever be Cinderella again.
Yeah.
And I haven't been a huge fan of Tom Kiefer's solo albums. They're very Americana, very
Yeah.
John Cougar Mellencamp,
Yep.
and that's fine. It's just it's not Cinderella, and nothing will ever be Cinderella. And it really is sad, that it had to end that way.
I've heard some songs that I've liked, but yeah, it's not. And I mean, yes, people grow and change, and that's fine. But I think you're right. We won't see Cinderella. He's put in a lot of work to
Yeah,
build up his name as a solo artist.
and he
So
does well.
and I'm sure he does very well. And when you're the solo, I'm sure he controlled Cinderella
Sure.
anyway. But when it's Tom Kiefer, you get to do it how you want to do it, and he's probably just like, that ship has sailed, and
Yeah,
it's a
I
bummer.
agree. He's gotten some good breaks too with his solo career. His first record, he had a appearance on Letterman as the musician of the night on Letterman
Oh
with
wow,
that
I
solo
didn't know.
album. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
Oh,
I think he
all right.
played the Flower song.
Oh yeah, yeah. And with his vocal style, it's not a surprise that he's got to tone some things down.
Sure.
Because, you can't be fucking writing Shake Me and Somebody Save Me over and over again, because those days of your voice being able to do that, that's gone too.
And all the vocal problems he had for years. Yeah.
Right? Totally. Totally. All right. We're down to our number two. What's your number two?
Never in my life will we probably ever see a band caused to break up the way they were in 1994 as Winger.
Yeah.
You want to talk about the biggest bullshit breakup ever. It was that Winger had no choice.
Yeah.
Where
Yep.
were they going to go?
Yep.
And we all can sit here and say what kind of bullshit it was, but I'm sure we all watched Beavis and Butthead and we all laughed and we all thought it was funny, and that's great. I'm all for free speech and say what you want. And Beavis and Butthead was funny, but to an extent when you're 15, 16-year-old like I was then, I was a Winger fan, but I still thought it was kind of funny. But
Sure.
then as an adult, you think about how your job that you put your whole life and your heart and your soul into your music. And Kip had done so much. I mean, he'd worked with Alice Cooper and he'd done all of these things. just to have one episode of a cartoon put him underground.
Yeah.
It's devastating. It's sad, and it's too bad. And I don't, I know that they've come out and they've had tours and they can create, but they deserved so much more because that pole record that they were touring at the time that that all
Oh,
happened is dog eat dogish in
yes.
how good it is.
Yes. I've said that. Pull, Dog Eat Dog, Psycho Schizophrenia, man, albums that just got fucked. And people almost universally describe Winger was probably the most talented band out of everybody,
Yeah.
you know? And you're right. We used to watch Beavis and Butthead all the time and thought it was funny, but you get older and you're like, "Holy fuck. That was somebody's livelihood that you were fucking with."
Yeah.
I mean, it's like imagine me and you putting on hair metal guru shirts, and then we get some dumbass like you know Jay or Ryan wearing a fucking Trevor Crash Course Metal Show shirt. I mean, you want to be fucking him? No, I'm just kidding.
Oh shit, that's gonna get payback.
Yeah, just fucking around. But
There
yeah,
was more that, I'm sure there was a lot more going on with Winger too. I know that Kip's wife was killed in a car accident at the same time that all that was going on.
I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, her name was Beatrice, and she
Oh,
died. It wasn't, it was after all the Beavis and Butthead stuff had happened, but
yeah,
she was killed in a car accident, and he
right.
was gutted. And that
Sure.
first solo record that he did in 97, 96, 97, that was
Yeah.
called This Conversation Seems Like a Dream,
Yep.
it was his, therapy to get through that. And it's a beautiful record if you've ever heard that record. It is
I'm
fantastic.
sure I have it.
Yeah, this conversation seems like a dream. It was great.
I
And
bought all of like I bought Mike Tramp, Capricorn,
oh, great record. Yeah.
Kip Winger, because you were like, fuck, all our bands are going away. I was just always desperate to stay attached.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what we're talking about here is you get so attached to these bands, it was like you were just desperate to and I was like, fuck, I'm gonna buy this. I'm gonna
Hmm.
support these guys because I'm not gonna fucking bail on them like everybody else did, you know?
Yeah, I agree. And like I said, it's the biggest bullshit breakup ever.
Yep.
And that's not to say that I think Kip's wife passing was probably also gutting, but the predominant reason was where were they? What past did they even have to play in clubs when they were the laughing stock of the world?
Yes. Yep. Okay. My number two. Um, well, you and I just did a video on the Bret Michaels Poison saga, and we talked about how we feel like Bret's kind of fucking over his brothers, and you gotta wonder if some of that still goes back to 1991, and you know, basically the band getting embarrassed on stage at the 1991 MTV Video Music Awards. Cece comes out, pink hair, looking completely not like Poison. The show, and there's people have given, oh well, it wasn't that Cece was high on drugs. I don't know. I think Cece was high on drugs because he looks like he's fucking out of his mind. But anyway, in my Ricky, did you know I interviewed Ricky Rocket? In my Ricky Rocket interview, he did say that there was some confusion, oh, they were just gonna play a song on a break, and then they were like, oh, wait, hold on, now we're gonna do this. So anyway, and then CC's cord gets unplugged. But Ricky said in that interview, he said at the end of that night, nobody talked to each other. He said it was a very lonely time. And CC ends up getting kicked out of the band. And, like, is there obviously they got back together, but so I'm talking about the 91 breakup.
Yep.
Poison was one of my fucking, they just put out Flesh and Blood, which I've said is the greatest Poison album. Uh, you know, Poison, Warrant, Cinderella, Skid Row back in those days. I would have said, I would have died for these bands. I fucking worshipped them. And to hear that Poison was breaking up at the height of their powers, at the height of, well, their second biggest album, uh, was just so shocking and and just devastating to a young me. They get back together, but they did the Native Tongue album with Richie, which you really like a lot. There's some
Love it.
decent moments on it. They have never done another record with CC that even, we got Holly Weird, but so I just it was a devastating moment. I was so heartbroken when that band broke up, and I trace it all back to the 1991 MTV Video Music Awards. I think that's where everything turned and went from, hey, the normal band shit to something's fucking wrong here.
I, I I think that played a massive, and I still think today that the behaviors that were exhibited that night by Cece. I mean, anybody that says he wasn't so freaking high or drunk, I mean, I tend to think he was on both. I mean, he looked
Yeah,
like he was about ready to go outside and pick up some cars and eat some glass, you know?
sure,
Like, I mean, he
sure.
was pretty jacked up, but um, you know, the breakup of Poison in 91 also affected me quite a bit because I mean, Look What the Cat Dragged In was the first cassette tape that I ever bought on my own with my own money. And I adored them. And I had like the Metal Edge issues that were just the Poison
Yep,
issue that was always in there. Was like three or four of them, and my walls were covered in that stuff.
yep,
And I mean, it's like you said from the top of this thing. You spend all your time and effort reading up on these and waiting, chomping at the bit for the new issue of the magazine to come out so you can go through the metal wire and see if there's news on them, or
yep,
you're getting the track by track 2 months before the album comes out. So you already know that the song is coming out.
yep,
And then it's over. And it
yep,
almost feels like there's nowhere it almost lessens the music that you have in a way because you're like, oh, well, I'm never getting more. And thank God they came back and all of that. But boy, it really gutted me too.
totally. You're absolutely right. Okay, we're moving on to our number ones. Dying to hear what you got.
There's only two events musically that have completely gutted me to the point of laying on a couch and looking up at the sky and going, where do we go? One of them is Michael Hutchence of NXS dying. But for the sake of this video, which is hair metal related, um, the 1996 breakup of Skid Row
Yep,
was devastating for me.
yep,
And I still remember where I was when my buddy called me. And, if you think about 96, 97, that's the infancy of the internet.
yep,
And we used to get so much news. It was like breaking news every day, with the AOL message boards. And I remember my friend telling me that, holy shit, Skid Row broke up. And I was like, what? And it was legit because it was a message directly from Rachel Bolan and Snake Sabo saying that the band is broken up. We're going our separate ways. And but they didn't go into the details. And then Sebastian, had his website, Sebastian Webb, and
yeah,
it used to be one big picture, and he'd
yes,
post words over it, and it was
yes,
always, like the Rolling Stone picture of him or whatnot.
yep,
And I'll always remember it was such a bizarre time, but you never truly got the understanding of what had happened for years. But it
totally.
gutted me. I loved those albums, especially Subhuman Race that had just come out, and yeah, it was pretty shitty.
I didn't like Subhuman Race, but I was devastated just like you when Skid
Yeah.
Row broke up. I mean, I said that I from 89 to 92 and probably even still in 95, 96. I if Sebastian would have told me to run through a wall, I just would have done it. You
I
know,
would have too.
I idolized him. I thought he was everything that a rock and roll star was supposed to be. He was good looking. He had this great voice. He was anti-authority, and you're young and you're like, yeah, fucking, I'm not gonna let the man tell me what to do. They wrote amazing songs, and they hit me. That debut album hit me right at the right time. I was 16 when that fucking thing came out. And I used I remember driving around with a girl and she's like, "Can we just play the hits?" I remember and I'm like, "No." I'm like, "Listen to this whole fucking thing. This is the greatest band ever." And I thought that for a long time. And when you find out that what, your favorite bands, you always grow up thinking they're all for one, one for all. They're best friends. They probably hang out when they're not on a tour bus.
Oh yeah.
You thought that was true, and then you're like, wait, no way. Like they're not best friends or they're done. And so I'm
Especially those home videos.
oh,
You'd watch like the Roadkill video or Oh Say Can You Scream. They all seem like they're buds and hanging out and
but I'll say this, and I think Oh Say Can You Scream is one of the greatest home videos
sure.
in
Yeah.
music history. But you do start to notice on Roadkill, Sebastian does a lot of shit on his own.
Yeah, he's on his own bus.
He's on
Yeah.
his own bus, and that's not a good fucking sign. But
Yeah.
I've also said I can see how being on a tour bus with him for months and months and months would be hard to take.
Yeah.
So I'm right with you, man. All right. My number one, you had to know it. Okay. And I don't know which period I'm going to talk about when I was so, whoa, I was so fucking, I worshiped the Dog Eat Dog album. And we've talked about that unknown period of 93 and 94 before, they got back together. But I worshiped Dog Eat Dog. I remember the day I got that thing, going to a party, and we were playing it at the party. But at the end, when everybody leaves and I got a couple beers left and I sit at the kitchen table drinking and listening to this album and rewinding Andy Warhol Was Right like three or four times and playing that over and over and over and just going, "Oh my God, they put out how did they fucking beat, because I was like, how did they beat Cherry Pie?" And I'm like, they fucking beat Cherry Pie. Unbelievable. And the band crashes and burns. And I saw the Dog Eat Dog tour, much smaller venue than what they'd played previously when they played Fargo on the Cherry Pie tour. Anyway, they got back together, but the warrant of the fun, you still kind of looked at them as this fun party rock band. I love Ultraphobic. So the first breakup killed me, but the second breakup in 2008, I saw like the third show, and I've talked about this before. I saw the third show, Janie Lane basically admitting we are now a nostalgia band. We're not going to play anything new. It was heartbreaking, and I wrote a review of it for Sleaze Rocks, and I was like, I just I just remember thinking like he used to want people to listen to his new music so bad on the Ultraphobic and Belly to Belly. He'd be like, "Please listen to this new song. It's the best stuff I've ever written." And for him to come out on that third show in 2008 and say, "Yep, you're not going to get anything new. I'm done with that." Uh, I remember thinking, "How long is that going to last?" And it didn't. Like a couple shows later, he's in Vegas. He's out of his mind. There's clips on YouTube. They're really horrible clips, but he looks like he's on a different planet, lost, and the band just can barely contain it. And 3 years later, he was dead. So both of those things were devastating to me. The first breakup and the second of Warrant.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've said it before. I mean, that it's so final, that Janie's gone.
Yeah.
And you know, it was devastating when he died to me because I always held out hope that we were going to get one more Warrant record with him, and he always talked the last year in '08 that he was with them. During the first few gigs that were really good, he had done a rock line that he said, "Oh yeah, the next Warrant record's already written. It's ready. But we're gonna do this tour first." We never got that. I would have loved to have known what songs that are out there are
Yeah.
for it. It really is awful, and the breakup in '94 was just as equally depressing. So
Yeah. I mean, the first one, you're still like, like we talked about that young age where this music means so much more. But the
yes.
second one, when, you have the internet and you are starting to see the proof that, oh my God, like when people talk about that Janie Lane is not in a good place and you can see it and you're like, wow, he really is fucking lost. Then it hits you on a more emotional level. Back in the old days, you're like, well, yeah, he'll go solo, he'll do all this shit. But yes, in 2008, he looked like a guy who was about ready to die.
Oh, yeah, it was very sad, very, very sad. And no matter how many times we talk about Warren, it's always a very tough subject to
Yeah.
talk about because we lost somebody who meant so much to every one of his fans
Yes. Yes.
and the band too.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, that's it. That's our five, well, it's my six, five breakups that were just hard to fucking take. And if anybody, there's always going to be like one douchebag who stops by in the comments and is like, "Oh, you guys, you're a bunch of whiny little bitch." Well, fuck you, because man, I mean, when you love music, like I think you and I love music, like, and I think a lot of people that watch this channel can relate to that. You get attached. You feel like, you're like, we're all in this, and I fucking lost Patrick. Are you still there?
There I am,
But I
and
was,
I'm clear again.
were you hearing me or were you just gone there?
For some reason, it was all blurry, but I'm good.
Oh, okay. But I was just saying, like you feel like you're invested in
Yes,
with the band, and
for sure.
when it ends, it's like fucking losing somebody that you love. So
It
with that,
is.
we would love it if you went in the comments, tell us what other breakups and shit. I mean, we didn't talk about Motley Crue. There's a lot of big breakups that can be talked about. So tell us what breakups hit you hard in the comments. And with that, Patrick, thanks for coming on and talking about the breakups that hurt the most.
Thank you for having me on. I always love coming on. I love this show. It's an important show, and you're changing the tides of music, man. You really are, and that's not smoke being blown. That's just it's the goddamn truth, and this channel's blowing up. So keep doing what you're doing, brother, because you're killing it.
Thank you, and thanks for all your help with the channel. Patrick reaches out and talk and tries to get people lined up for the channel. We're actually kind of working together. So you do so much behind the scenes to help me get interviews. He's lined up a lot of the interviews that you see on the channel. So man, thank you for everything that you do.
From
All right, hey, go in the comments, tell us your thoughts on the video, and like, subscribe, what the hell, ring the bell. And you have the opportunity to become a member. It costs a little bit, but you get early access to some of the videos. You get first response to comments. And hey, whatever you can do to support the channel, truly, I appreciate you being here. Until the next video comes out, my name is Anthony. They call me the Guru. Take care of yourselves.